The house on Maple Street had always been odd, even before the boy arrived. It sat slightly askew on its foundation, as if the ground had decided one day to tilt just enough to make visitors feel off balance. Inside, dominating the front hall like a stern uncle at a family gathering, stood a grandfather clock so tall its face nearly brushed the ceiling. Its pendulum swung with deliberate slowness, each tick echoing through the rooms like a polite cough. No one remembered winding it. It simply kept time. Or perhaps time kept it. The house itself rested on what the locals called the clockwork, though no one had ever seen beneath the floorboards to confirm. Gears sometimes hummed faintly underfoot when the wind was right, and doors, ordinary doors, would occasionally shimmer at the edges, turning briefly translucent before snapping back to wood and brass. Neighbors joked that the house was indecisive about where it wanted to be. One week a door might lead to the kitchen. The next it opened onto a hallway that hadn't existed yesterday. Portals, even portals to other places. The word stuck, but no one pressed the issue. In this town, strangeness was polite enough to mind its own business. The boy, Tick, had come through one of those doors 3 months earlier. He looked mostly human. Lanky, dark hair that fell into his eyes, skin the color of old brass under lamplight. But when he lifted his shirt, which he did rarely and only when alone, the skin over his chest parted like curtains to reveal intricate clockwork. Tiny brass cogs, springs coiled tight, and at the center, a heart-shaped pendulum ticking steadily. He had arrived from a dimension where everything ran on mechanisms, where emotions were measured in revolutions per minute. Here, in this damp Pacific Northwest town, feelings felt messier, less predictable. He decided to try high school anyway. Why not? Everyone else did it. He had a friend, buddy, Mira. She had come through the same door a week later, fleeing something she never quite explained. At first glance, she was human enough. Tall, sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that caught light like polished obsidian. But puberty had arrived like an uninvited guest. Soft feathers now sprouted along her scalp instead of hair, iridescent and shifting from midnight blue to golden sunlight. Tiny wings budded between her shoulder blades, still folded tight against her back, twitching when she was nervous. Her face had begun to sharpen at the edges, beak-like, though she hid it under hoodies and scarves. Bird person, she called herself wryly when Tick asked. Very original, I know. They shared the house, not knowing where else to go. Mira made terrible coffee and excellent sarcastic commentary. Tick fixed things that weren't broken, taking things he found in this dimension apart to see how they worked. His latest device, a vacuum, he'd gotten from a thrift store nearby, lay strewn across the floor. They got along like mismatched gears that somehow still turned. High school was a revelation and a disaster. Tick enrolled as Tim, figuring it was close enough. He sat in the back of classes, marveling at how humans wasted time on small talk. Then he saw Elena. Elena sat 3 rows ahead in English, her laugh like a bell that didn't quite ring true. Polite, practiced. She had straight black hair, wore the same denim jacket every day, and doodled constellations in her notebook margins. Tick watched her the way one watches a complicated mechanism. Fascinated, a little afraid it might jam. He tried talking to her once in the cafeteria line. Your doodles, he said, pointing. They're accurate. Ursa Major, right? But you added an extra star. She glanced up, surprised. Yeah, for luck or something. A small smile. You're new, right? Tim? He nodded, heart ticking faster than usual. The pendulum inside him swung wider. Over weeks, they continued to hang out, shared notes, awkward hallway conversations, a group project on Shakespeare where he quoted sonnets with mechanical precision. Mira watched from the sidelines, feathers ruffling. You're ticking louder, she said one evening as they sat on the porch. That's either love or indigestion. Both, probably, Tick muttered. Elena was kind. She laughed at his jokes, which were mostly observations about entropy delivered deadpan, let him walk her partway home. But kindness isn't reciprocation. When he finally asked her to the homecoming dance, heart hammering so hard the clockwork rattled, she looked genuinely sorry. I'm flattered, Tim, really, but there's someone else. Has been for a while. He nodded once, twice. Understood. He walked home alone. The rain started halfway, the kind of steady Seattle drizzle that soaks without drama. Inside the house, the grandfather clock chimed 11, off key. Tick went to his room, lifted his shirt. The heart pendulum swung erratically, glowing faintly. Then, with a soft clunk, it detached. It fell into his palm, warm, still ticking faintly. He stared at it. The ache in his chest vanished. No pain, no longing, just quiet. He felt better. Mira found him sitting on the floor, heart in hand. "What in the blazes, Tick?" "It fell out," he said, "and I don't want to put it back." She crouched, wings twitching. "You'll die without it. A few weeks, maybe. Clockwork doesn't run on nothing." "I know." He turned the heart over. "But feeling hurts more than stopping." She didn't argue, and she just sat with him, feathers brushing his arm. Days blurred. Tick went to school, but the spark was gone. Elena waved in the halls, he waved back mechanically. Mira tried jokes, but they landed flat. The clock in the hall ticked louder, as if impatient. Doors shimmered more often, edges flickering like bad reception. One afternoon, a closet door turned portal clear for a full minute, showing a glimpse of brass skies and spinning gears, Tick's home dimension. It vanished before he could step through. Weeks passed. Tick grew pale, movements slowing. The pendulum in the grandfather clock lagged in sympathy. One night, as rain hammered the roof, Tick held the heart again. "I think I'm ready," he told Mira. She nodded, eyes bright. "Put it back, idiot." He pressed it to his chest. Gears clicked, springs wound tight. Pain flooded in, sharp, familiar, awful. But so did everything else. The smell of wet earth, Mira's quiet presence, the ridiculous hope that maybe, someday, he'd feel something worth the risk. The grandfather clock struck midnight, perfectly on time. Almost 1,000 years ago, in an old tower on the edge of a hamlet, an old wizard, once a humble clockmaker in a long-forgotten village around the year 1025, sat before his crystal ball. The orb, forged in his youth from stolen star iron and polished with secrets, let him peer across time into the present. His console of dials and levers, worn smooth by a millennium of gentle adjustments, hummed softly as he watched the house on Maple Street. Before him was a console, a marvel of dials, levers, and ticking gauges, each controlling a thread of possibility. He watched the house, the boy reinsert his heart standing near the bird girl. The wizard sighed. "Poor mechanism," he murmured. With a gentle pull of a brass lever, he opened a portal in the hallway, one that led back to Tick's brass and gear world. It stabilized, edges firm. The wizard leaned closer to the crystal. "Go home, lad. This dimension's too messy for clockwork hearts." But Tick didn't move toward it. He stayed, sitting beside Mira on the couch, listening to the rain and the clock. The portal hummed patiently behind them. Mira glanced at it, then at Tick. "You could go." "I could," he said, "but then I'd miss the mess." She smiled, a small, sharp thing. Feathers glinted. "Idiot." The portal waited a while longer, then faded quietly as if embarrassed. The wizard leaned back, a small, sad smile creasing his face. "Good choice, lad. The mess is where the good ticking happens." The grandfather clock chimed once more, satisfied, and the house on Maple Street kept its secrets, ticking steadily into the damp night,